Welcome to Mock the Week. I'm Dara, Briain. Joining me this week are Nish Kumar, Kerry, Godliman and Glenn Moore, Angela Barnes, Hugh Dennis and James Acaster. We start with a round called Picture of the Week. I show the panel a topical image and ask them to tell me what is happening. So, what's going on here?
Is it Jeremy Corbyn figuring out he's broken his Tinder because he always swipes left?
Is he Googling how to tie a tie?
He looks like he's just done BuzzFeed's Which Labour Leader Are You quiz and it's come back as Tony Blair.
Is he starting to wonder if Diane Abbott's 68-digit phone number is entirely accurate?
Is using the app Find My Glasses.
He doesn't actually want anyone to see, but he's probably booking an Uber. That was satirical, ladies and gentlemen.
I think he's checking his Betfred account because they've got to finance that manifesto somehow, haven't they?
He's looking up homemade jam on Google Images and he's turned Safe Search off.
You're sending a selfie to Beard of the Year. That wasn't satirical.
Has he just received a text message saying, have you been involved in an election that wasn't your fault?
Does anyone have an actual idea of what it is?
Yeah, that is Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you very much. Yes. It is. Yes. Yes, it's the toughest quiz on TV, this. Yes, this is a picture of Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn ahead of this week's Labour Party conference in Brighton. Corbyn avoided a potentially embarrassing row over Europe after members and trade union officials decided to not debate Brexit. Surely they should be talking about Brexit.
It's kind of like when me and my girlfriend avoid talking about getting married. Like, I know we've got opposite views on it, but if we say them out loud in public, it will ruin the party.
It's crazy as well, isn't it? Because they're discussing lots of other things. That's what they said. They're discussing social care and housing. Yes. So the agenda of the conference really is to discuss all the things they won't be able to afford because of the thing they won't be discussing.
I don't understand how you get through... Like, I can't get through a conversation at the moment without talking about Brexit. I was in a coffee shop and the guy asked me what I wanted and I said to remain in the single market and he looked at me like... I mean, that's obviously not what I meant.
Well, he's in the good times. This is the large time because, you know, it's a surprise to have done so well at the election.
Exactly, and when he was at the conference a couple of years ago, everyone was like, not sure. Now he's rocked up 2 years later. He's like Sandy at the end of Grease. Everyone's like, whoa! What you going to do about it, Sturge?
They somehow need to work up a policy that appeals to Leavers and Remainers, and that's impossible. What they need is sort of political equivalent of that dress. You know, like, is it white and gold or is it free market access?
I definitely know which side of the equation wants it to be white.
A lot of people there went, oh, as if, like, they're the victims. Don't have a go at the racist. That won't make it in.
What initial plans were there for Corbyn's arrival? Do they scrap?
Oh, he was going to walk on water.
Yes.
That is literally true. They were going to do a trick where it looks like... So he looked like... It was going to look like it was walking on water like Dynamo.
Yeah.
Just copying Dynamo, the first person who did it. It's offensive.
I think it's a good idea. A floating politician trying to attract the floating voter.
It's a lovely thing. And it would just be out on the sea. The idea would be out on the sea in Brighton and they would just move, or he'd be on a pontoon of some description, just floating along. And you could hear bits of it as he went past. And then he'd just keep going and bits of the speech would just go into the air. And then he'd presumably bounce off one of the piers and come floating back to the air. And you'd hear, oh, public finance... And you go again. That's all you need.
I don't think it's that impressive, Dara. Theresa May's been treading water since June.
I'd have liked it if he was just on a big inflatable crocodile.
If this is what they're planning and they didn't even win, imagine if they win. He'll, like, come out of a parachute like the Queen in 2012. So exciting.
I love the idea, because there's a lot of fucked-up people hang out on that beach. Just the idea of Jeremy Corbyn just floating past. How much did you take, Barbie?
In other news, where was Theresa May, however, speaking this week?
Florence.
She did go to Florence.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It was
Yes.
a nice, lovely place to go.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
where she was trapped in a glass box.
Yeah.
Failed to get out.
Great picture.
I think I'm not quite sure why she went to Florence.
The way it's going with this constant extensions, it feels like the only way we're going to leave Europe is because of actual continental drift.
Nigel Farage is very unhappy about the sort of transitional period, and he said people in this country didn't vote for a transitional period. I'll tell you what else people in this country didn't vote for. Nigel Farage!
The government also, I mean, this is fair, they want us to be more positive about Brexit.
Yes,
don't
they do.
So I'm
Yes,
happy
they
to
do.
say I'm positive it's a massive risk and no one knows what they're doing.
I wish they'd admit they don't know what they're doing. That would be so admirable to just go, but it's really hard. Forget it, I wish I hadn't said it. Sometimes I say to the kids, right, that is it. No telly, no video games, no iPads. But that is unenforceable. You cannot keep that. Do we like Google porn, have Haribo? I don't care.
There you go. Everything in the screen. Everything in the screen. There you go.
Google porn, have Haribo. You've just described Friday night.
Kids and grown-ups love it, sir.
This is Tang Fastrick. What has happened since the speech?
Oh, it's all gone tremendously positively.
It has, yeah.
Boris has claimed credit for it.
Boris has claimed credit for it,
Which
yes.
is a bit weird, because it went down badly, so it's a bit like demanding praise for a fart in a lift. Boris is just there being like, I smelt it, I dealt it, I did the crime, I've done the rhyme.
Boris claiming credit was like claiming responsibility for a fart in the lift while not being in the lift when the door opened. Then you need to go, I did that.
Boris isn't really sort of in charge of Brexit, and now it looks like we're going to be staying in Europe for longer, and no one really knows sort of what's happening. And so it's not really Brexit anymore, but it's still got the name Brexit, and it hasn't really got the original cast in it either. So Brexit's now sort of become Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
I can't wait for The Rock to get involved in Brexit. So excited for Dwayne The Rock Johnson to get involved in Brexit.
If The Rock got involved in Brexit, I would apologise to all the Leave voters so quick. Right, this was a great idea. I love you all.
Moving on, according to scientists, what does having a square head signify?
It's more sex drive than people with round heads.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Didn't they say that square-headed people are more likely to be unfaithful?
Unfaithful to be more, higher sex drive.
You know who I feel sorry for? Bert. Because Ernie must have been getting it all.
Beaker. Poor old Beaker.
Oh, no chance, mate.
I've been out with some square-headed men. You just got to roll the dice, haven't you?
Have you ever seen the programme Eggheads? None of them are sexy.
No. It's a programme that could never appear on.
Absolute dweebos.
Wayne Rooney's going to love it, isn't he? He's going to be like, it's not my fault, it's me head.
I don't understand this, because he's got one of the round...
You just want to do the accent.
I've got a very angular head. I don't know whether it's square or not.
It's square.
My nickname at school, amongst many others, one of them was Snowplow.
Because he loved cocaine.
No.
I mean, the rest of the people liked it, but you were a machine for the cocaine, right? Just good.
Here he comes, absolutely coked off his nut again.
Yeah.
Morning registration.
Oh, sorry. I got an idea for a film. I've read a script. Maybe you'd like to read it. This is one of our class, Dennis.
I've never taken cocaine, and a friend of mine described me as wasting my nose. Because this is an absolute cocaine guzzler.
Yeah. I don't know quite how this got onto cocaine. Anyway, what they...
You know how it did,
Yeah, I know.
Snowplow.
What they worked out was, because of the shape of my chin and my cheekbones, if you pushed me along the playground on a snowy day, the chin would scoop up the snow and it would all funnel in the correct
You said
direction.
they worked this out, just purely theoretically?
Did they do it?
Or did they actually...
Oh,
So
fuck
the
you.
snow would go up your nose. It's the story you're telling us.
These programmes about the news are fantastic.
At the end of that round, the points go to Glenn, Kerry and Nish. Now we play a round called What's the Story, Warring Tories. This game involves James and Glenn, so if you could make your way to the performance area, please. This round's a stand-up challenge. I launch the wheel of news, and wherever it chooses to stop, one of our performers will step forward and talk about that subject. OK, here we go. Let's spin the wheel. The first subject is jobs. Who wants to come in that? Glenn.
There were loads of jobs I wanted when I was a kid, whether it was starting up a Ouija board business with my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, or becoming a detective like Poirot or Craig David's girlfriend's parents in Fill Me In. I always wanted to be a movie star, you know, like a proper method actor like Eddie Murphy, because, you know, Eddie Murphy is so method and so committed that to get into the role of a vet in Dr. Dolittle, Eddie Murphy actually spent 10 years starring in lots of other shit films. It's so expensive everywhere you go if you don't have a job, you know? Like, I stopped getting haircuts after a while because there's hidden costs even when you get a haircut. Like, you think you're paying for just the haircut, and then at the end of the haircut, the hairdresser does that really annoying thing where they try and convince you to buy one of their mirrors and go, oh, what do you think of this? Do you know what I say? I say, I don't want to buy one of your mirrors. I want you to wash my hair at an angle I've otherwise never been at. So expensive everywhere you go. Like, I used to get the bus to work every day. Get this, £29 per bus journey. £29 per bus journey is insane. And not as insane as this woman who used to sit on the top deck every day with a microphone telling us where in London we were. £29 per bus journey, you can't even afford a roof. It takes 3.5 hours to get between Buckingham Palace and Westminster. Neither of which are places I work at. But, you know, for the first time in my life, I thought, I've got a job. I can buy things. I can buy things for my room. I can buy a chest of drawers and a desk lamp and a flashing neon halal sign for my window. And when you get a job, you think, oh, great, now I'm a proper grown-up. Next step, getting married, having kids, so I can be one of those proper adults who can call themselves on Facebook and LinkedIn a father to 2 amazing daughters, mother to 3 amazing sons. And I can't call myself that because I don't have those kids, and people don't really like it when I call myself a nephew to 3 gorgeous uncles.
Thank you very much, Glenn. OK, that leaves us with James. Let's see what your topic is. Let's spin the wheel. And the topic is growing up.
Oh, I thought it was feet for a second there. You grow up in little bits and increments, in my opinion, bit by bit. I think the first time you become even a little bit of a grown-up is when your parents start letting you make your own squash. It's a big day, because until then, my mum was making all the squash all the time, and I don't want to offend Richard's watching, but it was the weakest-ass squash I've ever had. It was so bad, I'd have to squint at it. Like, I guess that's got a vague orange tint to it. I'm trying to imagine what that tastes like as a flavour when I'm drinking it. Then you go around some other kid's house whose parents are a bit more laissez-faire. That squash knocks your socks off. It's incredible. I'd be like, whoa, you got access to this squash on the daily? He's like, yeah, but my parents don't pay me much attention and I'm worried they don't love me. It's like, I would leave it all in a heartbeat. For one sip of this squash, tell your dad I love him. Tell your dad I love him. I had to make a squash for my nephew recently. First time I made squash since I was living with my parents. I haven't done it in between because I'm an adult who doesn't have kids. And I know there are some adults watching who don't have kids who drink squash, but let me tell you, if you are the kind of person who drinks squash even though there's no kids in the house, you got bodies in the walls and heads in the freezer. I don't trust a single one of you. I was out of practice making squash and I had to make it for my nephew, let me tell you. I should have really, like, given myself a side view so I could see the glass proper, but I didn't. I'm 32. I got so close to the glass still, so I looked straight down at it. Just straight down. It was just a flat circle. I had no idea of depths or dimensions. I hoofed it in. I damn near gave that kid type 2. It was bouncing off the walls on Fun Uncle James's mega squash, losing his mind, going looping. At one point, he starts asking me weird questions. He goes, Uncle James, how come my lip skin is different to the rest of my skin? I was like, I've never thought about that, but now you've said it, not a day's going to go by when I don't think about it. Imagine if your whole body was lip skin. It'd take you hours to get ready in the morning. She'd be stood there with a chapstick. That's if you were the only one covered in lip skin. Obviously, you'd have a little chapstick. If we were all lip skin and that was just the whole human race, then there'd be like a giant chapstick in the living room from floor to ceiling, rotating at the speed of a kebab spit. The whole family would line up like cats on a scratching post. All over it in the morning. And then we'd walk out into a world where no one could shake hands for fear of becoming aroused.
Thank you very much, James. And that round points go to James Acaster. Well done. Thank you very much. Our next one is called If This Is the Answer, What Is the Question? On the board are 6 categories. Glenn, which category would you like?
I'd like home news, please, Dara.
OK. The category is home news. The answer is 40,000. What is the question?
Is it where in the line of royal succession is Samantha Mumba? Did I get it right?
Nope. You.
Is it... At school, I had some fake Adidas bottoms. You could tell they were fake because they had how many stripes on each leg?
Is it the number of times every day I get someone tweeting me saying, do you know you look like Liverpool player Mohamed Salah?
Is it that time when I tried to cook enough rice to feed 2 people? When it was cooked, how many people would it actually affect?
Is it how many M&Ms would I have to put in a row to spell...
Is it the number that I really count up to when I'm playing hide and seek with my kids?
Is it, so far, how many times in the Brexit negotiations has Michel Barnier gone, no?
Is it how many times Wayne Rooney has said sorry?
Is it how many of my Facebook friends turned out to be my mum trying to make me feel better?
Is it how many times have my parents asked me why I'm not on Mott the Wheat? Is this good enough, Dad?
And you know what the actual answer is?
Is it the number of jobs that are going to be lost because of Uber?
That is, yeah, as close to the question. Thank you very much, Nish. Yes, the question I was looking for is how many minicab drivers are thought to work for Uber in London? This is news that this week Transport for London decided not to renew the private hire licence of the ride-hailing company Uber. The firm's current licence will expire this Sunday, and the decision is thought to affect 40,000 drivers and 3.5 million customers. There has to be an end to which, however, there are 40,000 drivers who are now just going to have to really sheepishly go back to the local minicab company they were working at a year ago and go, hello, and the guy going, well, well, well. So tell me, how was the future?
We're going to be really nostalgic about it in a few years and be like, oh, my God, do you remember Uber? It was so much fun. It was just this tiny little bottle full of fizzy drink and it had a bear on the front. I'm thinking of Panda Pops. Yeah.
I mean, it's gone back to appeal, and there's every chance they'll sort out regulations and they'll return. So it's not, they may not be.
I hope so, because I get a lot of Ubers. They're so easy, aren't they? It's little Uber. I get a pint of milk, walk the dog, just get an Uber. Got a dog sticking out of the car. Stay in first gear, mate. Dog sticking out of the car.
Why does your Uber have that sound effect?
That's how easy it is.
You're not on the Uber map. What I love is the Uber map. As the car approaches you, and sometimes it goes past, it gets it wrong, it has to come back. And then sometimes when it hasn't turned around completely, I don't know why I love this, it's so childish, when the car comes towards you sideways. Have you heard that? Down the road, and you're thinking, I hope that's just the app and not the actual...
Are you boycotting them?
No, the thing, I was a bit worried about some of the practice I had, and I like my local minicab company,
Yeah.
you know, it's grand.
What you mean is really you've got a chauffeur, right?
Yeah, there's nothing to it. Yeah, that guy's a nice guy.
Ahoy, everyone.
I I hardly ever use Uber, but I go on a Boris bike. I use Boris bikes the whole time.
I like a Boris bike, but they're made for a shorter man. So it's like, while I like the idea of elegantly whizzing through town, it's ruined by the fact that I keep kneeing myself in the face. My legs come up.
Now you know how Boris feels.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, constantly hitting himself in the face.
They shouldn't be called Boris bikes in the first place, because wasn't it Ken Livingstone initially came up with the idea of them, so they should be called Kenny Farthings.
It's nice to see on the news, like, black cab drivers looking happy for a chat. They haven't looked this happy since Magic FM went 24 hours.
I'm glad that they folded, man. I'm glad that the whole company's done. Now the marketplace is wide open for my business, Learner, LRNR, and basically what it is the drivers are all learner drivers with provisional licences, and you can only get a ride if you yourself own a full driving licence.
Yeah.
And that way, we don't have to pay the drivers because it's all experience.
Good. Very good.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
You know, the chief exec from Uber, he said that he's finding out that there's a high cost to a bad reputation. And I thought, I remember learning that the hard way. You know, you give one blowy in a park, sixth form, ruined.
In other news, what new payment methods being used at branches of Cost Cutter?
They've introduced new technology to read fingers as payment.
Yes.
But I think they prefer money.
It's identified, a bit like, you know, any of these kind of bippy things. Yeah. But using your finger.
I'm really looking forward to it, because it'll be the first time in my life I'll be able to be like, OK, that's £5, please, and I can go, yeah,
And they'll go, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Some places need cash, though, don't they? I don't want to see this system in a strip club.
But this supposedly, because you would think that, you know, the mafia and stuff would cut off lots of people's fingers and use them to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
But in fact, it can tell whether you're alive or not, because it is the veins. And I think, well, that's not. I don't think that's true, because my mum, for example, it cannot turn on an induction hob. You know, you know when you have to press the thing on your hob like that? It does not turn on because her fingers, her circulation is so bad, her fingers are too cold. So when she used to come and babysit and stuff, she couldn't cook anything. You had to leave stuff for because she couldn't.
Hugh, your mum's been dead for years.
But I was thinking it would be
We
tricky.
all went to a funeral, Hugh.
You can't let it go, mate.
We sat in this formation.
Wouldn't it be awful? Wouldn't it be awful if my mum went into a shop and had to do this to
Yes,
pay
because
for
you
something?
scare people. They go, oh, my God, there's dead Mrs. Dennis. Who died all those years ago. Why can't you be at rest? Because my son will not acknowledge that I'm dead. I'm so sorry, by the way, to your mother. Lovely woman, I've met her a few times. Lovely woman. Sweet.
Also, lovely woman.
Lovely woman.
And dead as hell.
Dead. OK, at the end of that round, the boys go to Briain, Kerry and Nish. Now we come to scenes we'd like to see. So if everyone can make the way over to the performance area, I'll read out this week's topics, then we'll see what our panellists can come up with. OK, here we go. The first subject is unlikely things to hear on a TV police show.
It's not my fault. You told me to reconstruct the crime, so I killed someone.
So, according to this, the suspect was 5'5", red hair, glasses. How pissed was I last night?
Sarge, I can't find any fingerprints. I don't think the killer had any hands. Oh, no, gloves. Yeah, fair point. They could have been wearing gloves.
Sergeant, you left the luggage in a wind tunnel? Well, this is going to blow the whole case wide open.
Put your hands where I can see them. Oh, yeah, those are some sexy hands.
You're going down for a very long time, because I did it for you on your birthday.
The attacker first broke into the house when... Oh, you'll alter my voice afterwards?
I told y'all to play this one by the book. Now I've got the FBI and the DA on my ass, and also everybody keeps thinking on the phone I'm African-American when I'm clearly a Chinese lady.
When forensics arrives, let them know that, as per usual, a lot of the semen is courtesy of yours truly.
So is this the body here? Yeah. Oh, God, sorry, Tina. I didn't recognise you without your makeup.
Wait, so you're trying to tell me that the mounted policeman at the home end of Liverpool Stadium fired a bullet that just about grazed Liverpool's manager? You're trying to tell me the cop on clip-clops clipped clop?
We're the boys in blue. We wanted to be called the Blue Man Group, but that name was already taken by some very talented individuals.
Hate crime. No, I love crime. What I do is crime.
We've searched the suspect's room and we've found traces of semen, alcohol and cocaine. Our conclusion? Absolute legend.
For the benefit of the tape, the suspect is a really lovely bit of rough.
He can find any body. He can find any suspect. But can he find himself? This is Gap Year Detective.
OK, the next topic is things you never hear on daytime TV.
Good morning, I'm Susanna Reid, and I'm not blinking. This is a cry for help in Morse code.
Shouldn't you be at college?
Something a bit different in today's episode of Countdown. Susie Dent is actually going to be playing the game. Let's see how she copes without her fucking dictionary.
Welcome to Escape to the Country, or to give it its full title, Some Smug Wankers Fancy a Bit of Fresh Air.
Welcome to Smell the Cheese.
Welcome, you're watching Four in a Bed, where we'll be catching up with your mum.
Well, he already presents everything, and now he's fronting the new ITV breakfast show. Yes, it's Good Morning Briain.
Well, coming up now on BBC Two, you can use the red button to choose your daytime show. It's either a travel documentary about alcoholic, narcoleptic rabbis on holiday or a current affairs and arts programme. It's your snooze, you lose, booze, cruise for Jews or news and reviews, you choose.
Well, it's a difficult topic, but later on we'll be talking about premature ejac... Oh, no.
Welcome to Good Morning Britain. I'm Piers Morgan, and I'm sorry.
Next up, Holly and Philip will be demonstrating the ancient art of bukkake. Kabuki! Kabuki!
This week on A Place in the Country, you don't get one unless you've got a special skill. That is what Brexit means!
And this week on Location, will Kirsty and Phil finally find that garage to bang in?
There was no cash in that attic. There's loads of fiberglass insulation and that...
And next on Jeremy Kyle, the childhood sweethearts celebrating their 25-year anniversary. Not really, it's a couple of crackheads with no teeth.
Today on Escape to the Country, we're escaping the law, and the country in question is Mexico.
Welcome back to Homes Under the Hammer with Dion Dublin, the show that makes you go... Dion Dublin?
Well, because they're all the same and I can't be bothered to announce them all. Here's Flog Dickinson's antique sumhammer, pointless breakout in the country. fucking finishes at 5.
Again, the points got Angela, Hugh and James. And that's the end of the show. This week's winners are Nish Kumar, Kerry, Godliman and Glenn Moore. Congratulations to Angela Barnes, Hugh and James Acaster. Thank you for watching. I'm Dara. Good night.